Because we don't teach how to value our own lives to our children, then why on earth would they ever value the environment around them? If a child doesn't value their inner ecosystem and personal health, why would they take the time to value the outer ecosystem and the environment? If you don't understand this interconnectedness with the environment, then for what reason would you ever take the time to recycle, to reduce your energy consumption, to invest in your community, to break cycles of violence? The seed of environmental protection and justice lie dormant in our outdated, unevolved, unawakened educational system. Our children are thirsty for real knowledge that brings awareness to this interconnectedness and this world and universe. We have just horribly failed in bringing it to them. After that year with AmeriCorps, I decided to go back to college. I changed my majors. What was originally philosophy and psychology now became education and peace and conflict resolution. Fast forward 2 more years, and the year I graduated from college, they were starting a new Peaceable Schools program, where I was shadowing to be a principal. Around that same time, gun violence was tearing apart our community. At that time, we had witnessed a string of school shootings that took the lives of multiple teenagers. Sandy Hook, Florida. These instances are unique because they happened inside the school. But gun violence, claiming the lives of our children in the streets, is nothing new. It's been happening for decades and decades. Myself, as a poet and an artist, and some friends who were also musicians and artists, we couldn't take it anymore, and we decided we wanted to do something. So we got together and we threw a big rally in Washington, D.C. We called it the Alternatives to Violence Rally and Festival. We brought together musicians, the Washington Wizards, the Metropolitan Police Department. We brought together kids from schools all around the city. We had a violent toy trade-in. We were promoting anything other than guns. From that festival and that rally grew an organization that I've been attached to for the past 17 years. The name of the organization is called One Common Unity. And over the next years, we traveled to schools, we ran youth programs in the summertime, keeping kids off the streets. But for anybody that's run a small nonprofit organization, you know the struggle. You know how hard this work is. We fight for crumbs on the table? No. We pick up the crumbs that are off the ground. That's what we do. We fill the gaps that nobody else is willing to fill. And we passionately, day in and day night, do anything we can to make a difference. I got creative. At one point, to raise money back then, I decided that I would start organizing retreats for adults into nature. So I've got like this other pseudo life where I'm a yoga and mindfulness teacher. I like to do handstands on furniture. So I said, why don't I take a bunch of my yoga students out into the mountains, and all the money we raise from these retreats we'll put back into our youth programs. I did this for a few years. Had 80, 100 adults come out into the mountains of West Virginia. On the 3rd year of the retreat, which raised a lot of money every year, I was sitting around the bonfire underneath a blanket of stars, and I thought to myself, wow, we're out here in nature experiencing all this beauty, and those kids in D.C. are going to stay in D.C. and we're going to run programs for them in D.C. When are they going to get out here? When are they going to get to be swimming in this river, singing around this fire? So I changed my approach, and I realized that those kids who rarely ever traveled more than 15 blocks from their homes or ever were able to even leave DC, and were all stuck indoors, they were going to have another way. I'm not sure if you know this, but according to the Environmental Protection Agency, the average American, which is probably a lot of us in this room, the average American will spend 93% of his or her life indoors. 93%. From the moment you are born till the moment you die, 93% of your life will be inside. We're inside right now. Think about it. You wake up in the morning, you already slept all night. Most of us probably indoors. You wake up, you roll out, you make some coffee, you eat some breakfast. That's 50% of your life right there. You might walk to your car, you're back in your car. Being in your car is considered indoors. If you got a convertible, I might give you a little bit of cushion. But really, most of us are in automobiles or in a train or in a bus. And then you finally get to your destination, which more than likely is also indoors. And you spend another 6, 7, 8 hours in the office, and then you get out and you walk back to your automobile and hit the repeat cycle on the washing machine. 93% of our lives indoors. And then I stumbled upon a term. It was a phrase coined by Richard Louv in his book called The Last Child in the Woods. It was called nature deficit disorder. Nature deficit disorder. It's not meant to be a medical diagnosis, but rather to serve as a description of the human costs of alienation from the natural world. This idea explores how being outside is also linked to better moods, reduced depression, and better outlooks on life. Americans were so bad at being outside that even just 10 or 15 minutes outside every day will do you a whole lot of good. So I started writing some grants, and I got this pilot program funded that would combine my experience of teaching social emotional learning, conflict resolution, arts empowerment, social justice, and mindfulness with retreats into national parks. These retreats would last 5 to 7 days, but we just wouldn't be going out there to play frisbee, as you might have heard me say in my trailer, but we were going out there to really dig into the trauma, to unpack and unravel intergenerational violence, to figure out how we could heal and become whole so that we could actually serve and be stewards of the world. I had a really good friend at that time. Her name was Ellie Walton, and I still have a very good friend, and her name is Ellie Walton. And she's a documentary filmmaker, and I approached her. I said, Ellie, I'm about to launch this pilot program, and it's going to fuse the best practices of the past 10 years of youth development work that we've done. Will you film it for me? I want you to film this. It's going to be unique. It's going to be different. She said yes. So from there was birthed the movie Fly By Light, which is what you saw the trailer about just now. We decided that on the retreat we would serve a vegetarian diet to our youth to teach them about environmental sustainability and climate change. Our diets are totally connected to environmental sustainability, and the youth learned about it. They learned how everything we eat has an environmental footprint. They learned that foods such as beans, fish, nuts, and eggs have the lowest impact. Poultry, pork, milk, and cheese have medium-sized impact. By far the biggest impact in terms of greenhouse gas emissions was linked to beef, lamb, and goat. This is not new information for most of us sitting in this room. But still telling people to go cold tofu with their red meat isn't likely to inspire real change. So the message we teach our youth in our programs is even if you don't give up meat and become a full vegetarian, simply reducing your consumption and just cutting back a little bit, that could seriously reduce our carbon footprint on the world. In our program, our youth learned about all types of violence, from the academic violence of grading to animal suffering and cruelty. Just as people are not disposable, animals are not disposable. And just as animals are not disposable, the environment is not disposable.